Thank you. Thank you very much. Do you have questions? Okay. We're going to move to our second panel, which is attracting Mexico investment as the theme. Our first speaker is Brian Peck, the Deputy Director of International Affairs and Business Development at the Governor's Office of Business and Economic Development, well known as the GoBiz Office. Welcome, Mr. Peck.
Thank you very much.
You can begin.
Move ahead. Okay.
Yeah.
So, Mr. Chairman, thank you. Honorable members of the Select Committee, thank you very much for the opportunity to be here this afternoon. I appreciate it. I'd like to provide you just with a very brief overview of the trade and investment MOU that the Governor signed with the Minister of Economy, Guajardo, last year during the trade mission, and an update on some of the activities that are taking place under this MOU. So the MOU is designed to provide a flexible and formal framework upon which to expand trade and investment cooperation between California and Mexico. Currently, Mexican companies operate about 735 business establishments in the state of California that provides about 13,200 jobs. So one of the objectives of the MOU is to expand investment from Mexico for further job creation in the state. Some of the areas that we're focusing on that we believe are areas that have great potential for growth and job creation are the agricultural technology sector, the renewable energy sector, the clean tech sector, ICT sector, and biotech, and those are the areas that we're focusing on. Some of the areas or some of the activities that we concluded so far under this MOU include GoBiz meeting earlier this year with several statewide and local partners to establish partnerships for business matchmaking and investment opportunities. These include the California chapter of the U.S.-Mexico Chamber of Commerce, the California Hispanic Chambers of Commerce, Cal Chamber International Council Trade, local chambers of commerce and EDCs, including some on the other border, including the Tijuana EDC and Cali Baja. So we've established several partnerships both at the statewide level and at the local level with the private sector to build up these business matchmaking and investment opportunities. Some of the initiatives that we'll be working on in the coming months to implement include working with private sector partners to put on or present webinars and seminars to help Mexican businesses know how to start a business or do business in California, working through our innovation hub centers to provide platforms to attract Mexican entrepreneurs, business opportunities, and investment from Mexico. And the third is establishing a network of databases that would allow especially small and medium-sized companies to participate in business matchmaking opportunities. We have established a working group under this MOU that is led by the Ministry of Economy on the Mexican side, GoBiz on our side. We'll be having our first working group meeting later this month to adopt new measures and initiatives to further expand trade and investment. And some of the areas that we're working on down the road include a regular exchange of information about investment opportunities in the state, as well as to provide information, again, especially for small and medium-sized businesses for investment and business opportunities. So that's a brief overview of where we are with the Trade and Investment MOU. Thank you for the opportunity.
Wonderful. Thank you. Any questions from the panel? Thank you. Thank you.
Great. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Marty Fisher, the policy advocate with the California Chamber of Commerce. Among other things, Marty leads Cal Chamber's advocacy on immigration. She has expertise in small business, banking, and finance issues. Welcome, Ms. Fisher.
Thank you.
Begin when you're ready.
And thank you for the opportunity for us to be here today. The California Chamber of Commerce considers Mexico a good friend and neighbor. Earlier today, we hosted a luncheon of about 100 people regarding trade and investment opportunities between California and Mexico. It's very well attended, and it was really great. We learned a lot. Last year at this time, we hosted a lunch celebrating 20 years of NAFTA. In fact, the California Chamber of Commerce has been present at all the Mexico advocacy hearings over the years, and we're happy to continue that tradition today. In the last 20 years, two-way trade in goods between Mexico and the United States has increased dramatically, from $81 billion in 1993 to almost $535 in 2014. It's expected to continue to grow 7 to 10% annually from here on out. Mexico has remained the United States' second largest export market since 1995, with a total value of $240 billion in 2014. Top export categories from the U.S. to Mexico include computer and electronic products, transportation equipment, chemicals, and non-electrical machinery. Our trading relationship with Mexico is especially important to California. Mexico continues to be our #1 export market. purchasing 14.6% of all California exports. Our exports to Mexico accounted to over $25 billion in 2014. That's a 6.3% increase from 2013. Almost 700,000 jobs in California depend on our trade with Mexico. That's an awful lot of jobs. Computers and electronic products remain California's largest exports, accounting for almost 30% of all California exports to Mexico. Exports of transportation equipment and machinery from California to Mexico grew to total almost $5 billion, with chemicals and food manufacturers continuing to be strong export sectors as well. Exports from California accounted for almost 11% of total U.S. exports in 2014. California's top export destinations are Mexico, Canada, China, Japan, and South Korea. California trade exports translate into high-paying jobs for over 1 million Californians. Furthermore, tourism from Mexico to California remains strong. California is the #1 tourism destination for Mexicans. According to Visit California, our State Travel and Tourism Commission, nearly 7.5 million people visited California from Mexico in 2013, spending about $3 billion. Mexico sends more visitors to California than any other country by a wide margin. The Cal Chamber has actively supported the creation of the North American Free Trade Agreement, NAFTA, among the United States, Canada, and Mexico, comprising almost 474 million people, with combined annual trade with the United States being over $1 trillion, $1.1 trillion. The Cal Chamber's support for NAFTA is based upon an assessment that it serves the employment, trading, and environmental interests of California and the United States, as well as Canada and Mexico, and is beneficial to the business community and society as a whole. Since 1993, trade between the 3 NAFTA countries has nearly quadrupled. While the U.S. and Mexico are part of the NAFTA, we also look forward to working with Mexico via the Trans-Pacific Partnership countries, Australia, Brunei, Darussalam, Canada, Chile, Japan, Malaysia, Mexico, New Zealand, Peru, Singapore, the United States, and Vietnam. We support and look forward to the achievement in the near future, we hope, of an ambitious, high-standard regional 21st century Trans-Pacific Partnership Trade Agreement. In addition, Cal Chamber has a good partner in the American Chamber of Commerce in Mexico City, the AmCham. Last July, the Cal Chamber assisted in the organization of Governor Brown's historic trade mission to Mexico. As you know, Governor Brown, senior members of the administration, as well as business delegates traveled to Mexico almost a year ago now. Given the state's border relationship and longstanding historical, cultural, and economic ties, Mexico is a natural partner to further expand the two-way trade and investment and strengthen cooperation on global climate change. Some of the highlights of the mission included an investment forum and a reception hosted by U.S. Ambassador to Mexico, Anthony Wayne, a fellow Californian, a California-Mexico Climate Change Summit with the Ministry of Environment and Natural Resources and business and academic leaders throughout Mexico, and a higher education dialogue with the Ministry of Education and the National Council of Science and Technology. Over the years, our organization has hosted Ambassador Anthony Wayne, U.S. Ambassador to Mexico, and both the Governor of Baja California, Mexico, the Governor of Sonora, and Mexico's Secretary of Foreign Affairs. And last but certainly not least, we hosted President Vicente Fox at our offices in 2006. In general, Cal Chamber supports the expansion of international trade and investment. We support fair and equitable market access for California products abroad and the elimination of disincentives that impede international competitiveness of California business. Thank you for the opportunity to be here today, and we're pleased to be included in the support and to support the promotion of increased trade and investment between California and Mexico.
Thank you. Thank you very much for being here. Any questions from the panel? Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next speaker and our final speaker, last but not least, Jose Blanco. Jose is a partner at the Central Valley Fund. He's also served as the Regional Vice President, Chief Investment Officer at AIG Investment Corporation. In that role, he was responsible for making direct investments with the company's portfolio assets in Europe. Welcome, Don Jose, and you have 10 minutes for your presentation.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and members of the Senate Select Committee on California-Mexico Cooperation for inviting me to testify today and for supporting Mexico Advocacy Day. My partners and I at the Central Valley Fund are gratified and honored to be before you today to share our thoughts about investment opportunities between California and Mexico. The Central Valley Fund, or CVF, started in 2005 as a private equity investment fund based in Davis, California, with a satellite office in Fresno, California. The fund's underlying core strategy has been to invest in small to middle market businesses in the California Central Valley and throughout the state of California. Our funds have managed $175 million in committed capital commitments from our investors, including CalPERS, the California Retirement System, and other institutions and individuals with a commitment to California. In our current fund, CVF2, we have Mexico's largest institutional investor, Fondo de Fondos in Mexico, as a committed investor. We believe we were the first capital allocation to any U.S.-based fund manager. A valuable byproduct of our core strategy has been the rapidly growing trade relationship between California and Mexico. As you may have heard from others, NAFTA trade has grown a solid 7 to 10% year over year. These increasing trade volumes, along with the meaningful growth of tourism and direct investment, have been among the leading catalysts propelling both economies over the last 20 years. My partners and I have incorporated this accelerating trade dynamic into CVF's investment strategy. We evaluate companies with and have a heightened interest in management teams that have not only been executing successfully in their growing business plan in the USA, but also their ability to capture the benefits of the U.S.-Mexico trade dynamic and or serve the rapidly growing Mexican diaspora in California and throughout the U.S. Southwest. The growing Hispanic population in the state of California is particularly pronounced in the San Joaquin Valley, where approximately 50% of the population is Hispanic and supports the state's world-class agricultural industry. The Hispanic entrepreneurs around the state are concentrated, aside from ag, in construction, hospitality, and retail business, collectively representing about 500,000 businesses throughout the state. In the last 10 years, Hispanic entrepreneurs, particularly second and third generations, have launched businesses in manufacturing, distribution, and technology. The latter sectors have provided increasing opportunities for investors like CVF to deploy capital that capture these cross-border dynamics. An example of one of these opportunities in a Central Valley-based fertilizer manufacturer where CVF invested, the company produced the sustainable fertilizer products that provide healthy biodegradable ingredients to improve crop yields while providing cell beds with increased nutrients. The company's products are particularly efficient with berry crops, strawberries, blueberries. Management seized the opportunity to follow the Central Valley farmers to Mexico in order to provide the U.S. consumers, Safeway and Kroger, and et cetera, with year-round fresh fruit products and eliminate the seasonality associated with fresh fruit grown solely from April until October in California. The company built a distribution and mixing facility jointly with Mexican agronomists in Zamora, Michoacan, in Mexico. This Mexican connection provided our Central Valley company year-round sales and differentiated us from seasonal fertilizer operators in California. Another example has been a Los Angeles-based 3PL logistics provider that caters to the largest Mexican exporters of consumer products, for example, Bimbo, to store and distribute their products throughout the U.S. The company was founded by 3 Mexican nationals who came to the U.S. and bootstrapped with a vision to build a unique logistics business that catered to Mexican and Latin American exporters in the U.S. Currently, the business employs over 200 employees, mostly Californians, and manages 1.5 million square feet of warehouse space across the country. The company has built a close working relationship with the U.S. firms like Nike, Wrigley, and Coca-Cola, and continues to provide added value services and logistics to Mexico's leading consumer brands throughout the U.S. The key in any investment business is to measure the scale, the size of the addressable market, and determine whether the marketplace will be open to collaborating with the private capital providers like CVF. Investment funds look for interesting macro environments where companies are looking to attend to consumer needs and demands, but also management teams willing to improve and scale their businesses. The absolute size of the Mexican economy, roughly $1.3 trillion, and the California economy exceeding $2.2 trillion, answer the question of scale. Combined, the region would rank as the 5th largest economy globally. The question of scale also addresses the number of business advisors, capital providers, to ensure there are numerous and diverse players to complete the investment ecosystem. The matter related to scope refers to how diverse a particular economy or a market may be to avoid any particular risk of concentration. An exaggerated example would be investing in Alaska, where no matter what industry or business one invested in, one would be exposed to the volatility of commodity prices, oil, gas, and minerals, because over 70% of the state's GDP depends on the extraction industries. The advantage of the California-Mexico economies is the broad industry diversity. For example, if one makes an investment in the hospitality industry, it would be unlikely that a downturn in any particular industry could impact that investment, with the exception of broad macro trends nationally or even globally. The broad diversity of both economies would support the hospitality industry investment despite a downturn in commodity prices. Opportunities for California entrepreneurs. The Mexican middle class has quadrupled in the last 20 years, amounting to over 60 million citizens and growing. The continual opening of the Mexican economy following significant regulatory reforms in key sectors like energy, transportation, and telecommunications will continue to promote business friendliness. In the World Bank's recent 2014 rankings, Mexico ranks among the countries like Israel and Spain regarding the ease of doing business, a trend that is poised to continue. Life has markedly improved for the average Mexican citizen. According to the UN Development Index, which measures the average achievements in a country in 3 basic dimensions: long and a healthy life, access to knowledge, and a decent standard of living, Mexico now rates high. The index was created to emphasize that people and their capabilities should be the ultimate criteria for assessing the development of a country, not economic growth alone. This further emphasizes a changing Mexican consumer seeking new technology, better education, higher quality food products, and in general, better living standards. The small and middle market entrepreneurs that understand this dynamic have been able to export or build local operations to cater to the Mexican market and serve as a springboard to Latin America. Opportunities for the Mexican entrepreneurs in California. The California consumer has integrated and adopted a vast elements of Mexican culture into its cuisine, entertainment, and traditions. The Hispanic populace in California, 14 million individuals, provides a natural extension of the Mexican consumer base, but also a springboard to the U.S. West Coast. The volume of California trade now exceeds $25 billion and represents California's most important trading relationship. An example of the trade interdependence is clearly seen in the ag industry. Mexican and California farmers cultivate together close to 100,000 acres in Mexico, primarily to grow fresh fruits and vegetables to export to the U.S., which exceed $5.5 billion last year, when it is otherwise not possible due to the U.S. climate. These relationships contributes to the roughly $3.2 billion in agricultural and livestock exports from Mexico to California. Last year, Mexico exported the U.S. exported about $600 million to Mexico. Conversely, California dairymen and cattlemen exported over $700 million in dairy and various meat products in 2014, capitalizing on the state's unique position as the most productive agricultural producer among all U.S. states. These trends are expected to persist given the relative efficiencies of the California ag operators and Mexico's relative advantage of its geography and weather year-round. The economic literature clearly states the benefits of improved cross-border investment and trade. Since the inception of the European Economic Community, the region has seen increased levels of cross-border activity where each nation's relative economic strengths are captured. For example, Germany and France dominate industrial equipment manufacturing, while the UK is the contents leader in financial services. Personally, I witnessed the incorporation of Spain and Portugal into the EC in 1986. At the time of their entry into the EC, the price-adjusted per capita income of both countries was less than 50% of the EC average. Currently, almost 30 years later, these income levels are 75 to 80% of the average. The rate and the pace of the cross-border economic trade investment in the new EC has motivated and arrested as a function of transparency associated with business investment. This transparency is not only exhibited in terms of enforceable contracts and the rule of law, but also labor, environmental, tax, and political framework that were fair and level for all. A well-known economist once commented about foreign direct investment: capital will be deployed and invested where it's wanted and well treated. The role investment and trade plays is determined in great part by the incentives the polity provides entrepreneurs and the desired outcomes. For example, if the Californian businesses see the Mexican economy as an opportunity to provide quality and well-priced products to Mexican residents and preempt other U.S. and foreign businesses, Mexico will see welfare improvements while California businesses see improved rents. To the extent Mexican businesses capture the relative trade advantages relative to unique climate, lower labor costs, growing younger populace, and untapped energy resources, it will provide outsized rents to Mexican investment capital. The promotion of these relative and economic advantages becomes the key motivating factors in strengthening a healthy trade relationship. The danger in not bridging and stimulating California Mexico investment and trade would be higher relative prices and levels of unemployment in the region. The economic literature is also particularly clear about regions that live uncoordinated as autarchical economies are destined to underperform and limit the upper mobility of their respective populaces. In closing, my partners and I are optimistic that there's a great deal of risk for both California and Mexico if we do not build a strong and closely knit business environment where leaders on both sides of the border work closely to develop the political framework to succeed. Despite the ever-present challenges, the region's future is bright and promises to be a vibrant regional economy reveling in the world's best. We believe the best is yet ahead for Californians and Mexicans. Thank you again for your time and thoughtful consideration of such an important matter.
It took all of Europe combining, and it's not all of Europe, but they've built a healthy combination of countries to create the European community.
Yep.
And that's the only way they've been able to surpass the U.S. economy. If you add them up independently, jointly together, that's how they surpass the U.S. economy.
Yep.
What's America's response to that? Is NAFTA our only response to that? I mean, we have Canada, we have Mexico combining together. We create the largest mega economy, and it includes Central America. I mean, talk about South America. What's our response to the European community?
Well, I mean, the attraction for the other economies in Europe were this improved per capita income, and that was, but they had to change. So all the European, the Southern European economies had to change, and as far as rule of law, environmental tax, they still had to improve in certain elements. So it was a fair playing field for other folks looking to invest in, let's say, Spain and Portugal. Mm-hmm. So they had to change, and so they didn't see that as a threat. The Germanys and France of the world did not see that as a threat. Otherwise, they saw that as a self-interested move to sort of integrate those countries further politically and economically. I'm not sure the U.S. is totally there, understanding other than trade, that the economies at all levels, educationally, environmentally, tax, we need to further integrate even further. It's our self-interest. Even as an investment fund, we have limitations as to investing into Mexico. It's not, they'll let me go to Kansas, so let me go to Arizona, but they won't let me go invest in Mexico, which is fine. I understand everyone has a different risk aversion. And the same thing goes also for Mexican investors. They sort of limit me. I can't invest in San Diego, but I can invest in Tijuana. So I think over time that has to change. So they see this as a broader regional economy and not limited to nation states.
How do we change that?
It starts, I think, in this room and has to sort of permeate. The policymakers have to believe in that. This is one big regional economy.
Senator Waisel mentioned about the European Common Market, and you're an investor. There's a lot of challenges, though, right now that they're having over there. Negative bond rates, those types of things. They're having some really difficult, extenuating problems over there. What's the trap that you see that they're falling into? Because they could implode here pretty soon, and we want to avoid those with a relationship with NAFTA. So can you address that?
At a political level, I mean, I remember the debate in the 80s in Europe, and so everyone, all those Southern European countries had very high interest rates, and so they said, great, if we integrate ourselves economically, we'll see lower interest rates, we'll sort of converge at the monetary policy level, and eventually converge under the euro. But they didn't understand that they also had to sort of converge at the fiscal level, and sort of manage themselves to sort of like what the Germans or the French or the Northern Europeans would, the way they manage themselves fiscally. So folks like Spain have sort of pronounced budget deficits, which are a big cause of their problems. They've benefited from much lower interest rates. So a mortgage in Spain, if you can get one now, is at 3 or 4%. But it's very hard. There's very little to no public investment because they've run such hard deficits for so many years. They've sort of run out of their credit card. So that's what I think the Southern European countries did not commit themselves to doing, is running themselves a responsible fiscal budget. They kind of enjoyed the party of lower interest rates for 20 years, and that sort of came to an end.
Yeah. Two, you have Greece that is very progressive. I think 71% of the population gets some type of help from the government, and that's a big contrast between Great Britain and Germany. And so, we don't want to fall into that trap either, because Portugal, Spain, Turkey, Greece, they seem to be on the verge. And
No question, no question. As it relates to in California and Mexico, I mean, Mexico has done a great job managing monetary policy, managing inflation. They have a very strong banking system. So I think there's a lot of commonality as to sort of going to Senator Hueso's question. There's a lot of common ground to build upon. You know, as an economist, you'd love to see there be more mobility of capital, but you also like to see more mobility of labor. And so that the smartest people get to the jobs and there's movement of labor to the smartest, best opportunities. And clearly right now we don't have that, and that's maybe, if you were able to sort of move those two linchpins, that you'd see a lot more even economic growth.
thank you, by the way.
Right.
Good information, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for being here, and I'd like to thank all our panelists for their participation today. I also want to thank the consulate and the speaker's GoBiz office. I just have so many positive things to say about GoBiz and what they've been doing to reinvest in California and to attract business investment here. I also want to thank SEN Amigos, who are a local nonprofit that are, you know, working with the Hispanic community and philanthropy, and also lots of work within this building and advocating for the Hispanic and the business community as well. So thank you for helping with the Expo Tonalá as well, which is ongoing. You know, generally, you know, I'm very pleased that we have so much thought that takes place in the investment area, whether it's our pension funds or our chambers that have an eye toward our trading partners to the south and even to the north. California has a lot to do to continue to position itself because there's lots of competition in the world, but we also have a lot to be proud of. In February, we became the 7th largest economy in the world, surpassing Brazil, a country of 180 million people. And with our 39 million people, we're holding our own in this very competitive global market. One of our challenges is to get more of our workers working more independently, growing our middle class so that we share the wealth in California. We're a very wealthy state, but we still have a very high poverty index. And that goes to kind of the disparities of wealth that we have in our state that we need to address. And I find that one of the ways to do that is to increase our competitiveness in the areas of the global economy and continue to invest in education. I'd like to see Mexico invest more in education. They're doing a great job in many areas. They lead in many areas of medicine, for example, in areas of technology. Mexico's doing a great job, but I'd like to see Mexico develop more institutions of educational prestige because it's very important to building a very educated workforce. And while they do that, I think there's a good way to combine California's high-tech sector with California's manufacturing sector and contribute toward that effort. California is very proud to have 5 of the top 10 best public institutions in the United States. 5 of them alone are in California. And we have lots of investment in human capital being made in those areas of education. And wherever you have those universities cited, you have a very healthy business community thriving. And in San Diego, we've developed certain manufacturing centers around our universities. Our universities are patenting products. They're leading in scientific research. And that, of course, helps in the economic development area as well. So I visit Mexico once a year on a trade trip, and we're going to do that again this year to see how we can continue to create those partnerships to attract more investment to California. and I'm really excited about continuing to work in that area. So I want to thank all of you for being here today and leading to this, contributing to this conversation. If we have anybody in the public that'd like to share some comments, now's your opportunity. Come forward to the mic and try to contain your remarks to a minute, minute and a half, if you could, please. Come forward, state your name. And
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Herman Gallegos. I'm a member of SEN Amigos, and I'm here to support the investment opportunities, cooperation, relationships between U.S. and Mexico. I'm speaking from a little bit of experience as a former director of various corporate boards, including chair of the Trust Committee for California's Union Bank, as well as for 30 continuous years serving on various telecom boards in California. Just want to mention that at one point in overseeing our pension funds that they were very successful because of our investments in international relations and direct foreign investments. One example was the investment we made in Teléfonos de Mexico very early, Telmex. That proved to be very, very profitable. It paid off handsomely for us, but it also provided us an opportunity to develop an expertise about the country, about the people, about the regulatory framework, about the treaties that exist to protect foreign investments. And all of this has encouraged AT&T to make 2 new acquisitions in Mexico with Lucicel and Nextel. But I just wanted to use my time, the room, right time, to just comment on something that bears watching, because I think that will have a great opportunity for Mexico. And it is the passage, that if the passage of President Obama's plans to open up the United States into a new free trade agreement, the Trans-Pacific Partnership, or TPP, that will include 11 countries, including Mexico. Now, this promises to go beyond previous pacts in removing trade barriers and raising standards in areas such as the environment, workers' rights, and intellectual property. There's been a lot of debate on this, as you know, but to allay critics from people who are concerned about what happened in NAFTA and who are critical of free trade agreements in general, that they lead to job losses in the United States, President Obama has responded by saying that the trade deal fixes a lot that was wrong with NAFTA when it was passed in the 1990s. A recent report by President Obama's Council of Economic Advisors supports Mr. Obama's arguments, claiming that taken together, the trade agreements the United States has signed in the past has not, in fact, led to the outsourcing of American jobs. Well, debatable, but assuming that the President and his advisors are correct, this treaty strengthens the case for making even greater investments in Mexico. With 116 million consumers and a combined purchasing power of more than $1 trillion, Mexico, which is already a major market opportunity for U.S.-Mexican investments, will, with TPP free trade agreements, strongly position institutional investors for even greater returns in what is now and going to be an even greater remarkable success story in the global market.
thank you. Thank you for your comments. Anyone else like to share, chime in? Come forward and be ready to jump into the mic there. Sir, did you want to make some comments? Go ahead and. That's on. Go ahead.
Good afternoon, Chairman, members of the committee. My name is Noé Páramo. I'm a legislative advocate with California Rural Legal Assistance Foundation. I want to thank you for having this hearing today. And we support economic opportunities in Mexico and in California. And we also look at investing in communities, investing in people. We understand you need to have government, business, education, and most importantly, people. And we are behind supporting One California, and that's reinvesting in the Naturalization Services Program, and also expanding to the President's Executive Order, DACA DAPA. And so we've been going through the budget processes, requesting funding of $20 million, because we see that's an investment in people who then will be able to get better jobs and better wages and contribute to the economy of California, and as well as Mexico through remittances, because we all know that that is a source of income in Mexico. The other is, number two is, there are 17,000 farm workers lost their jobs due to the drought. So we also need to support programs like the drought training program that's going on with the community colleges to help farm workers get retrained and have an income source and have a job. And expand and strengthen those types of opportunities, because we need skilled workers. Most of the farm workers are unskilled, uneducated, limited in English. 25% are indigenous. So we need to put efforts into strengthening and our training and retraining programs for farm workers. And I thank you for your opportunity for giving me comment. Thank you.
Sir?
Thank you. Thank you, committee. My name is Manuel Ruedas. I'm a counselor at Rios Community College District and a member of SEN Amigos. And I just wanted to remind the committee that the community college is the one system that has the most number of Latino and undocumented students, and they are a valuable resource. Most of the students I work with are very hungry to be part of this conversation. And there are some disparities that I've seen. For example, very few international students are from Mexico in our international programs. Most of them are from Asian countries. There are very few opportunities for our students to study abroad. We don't have many study abroad programs through our own community college districts that are in Mexico. Most of them are European-based. And scholarship opportunities, many of the businesses have their scholarships limited to high school seniors and cut out the community college students. So I think investing in that population is going to be a big part of this discussion. And I thank the Mexican consulate for all the investment they've done in our local community.
Okay, thank you. That wraps us up. I want to remind everybody that we have a reception celebrating this occasion, or the occasion of Mexico advocacy today, with SEN Amigos that are going to be participating, and the Mexican consulate will be there from 5:30 to 7:30 at the Leland Stanford Mansion on 800 N Street. You're all invited. The second meeting of this select committee is tentatively scheduled for August, and we will be disseminating a draft agenda when it becomes available and letting you all know of the date. Thank you very much, and it was a pleasure to spend the evening with you.